Hello there, it's Friday, which means it's time once again for the best movie podcast ever. The only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, Konrad, and with me as always, he's our own crown prince of crime, it's Anthony James.
Hello, Konrad.
Hello.
I've just put all my knives in a very neat row, ready to start talking to you.
Yeah, you've got your damaged tattoo on your forehead, and you sent a soiled condom to Margot Robbie.
Well, I didn't do that.
From my mouth to God's ears. I don't know. I don't quite know what I meant by that, to be honest.
Miss Scoozy. That's what he said. He was getting when he did that. He was already getting in the character of what is his name again?
The Joker.
No, who was he in that Armani film or what? Gucci film? Armani film.
Armani, yeah.
Paolo Gucci.
Racist to Italians.
Paolo
Gucci, yeah. So what we've done here is we've just crossed the streams of about 3 different movies. So you're doing the Miscusi thing, which I believe is a reference to the
Eurotrip.
The hit gross out comedy of 2002. I want to say called
like
Road Trip or Eurotrip rather, not Road
Eurotrip.
Trip. Which I'm gonna charitably say maybe 10% of the people listening to this have seen, because it's quite an old movie. So we've narrowed our audience down with that, and then what we're doing is we're intersecting that audience in the Venn diagram of Jared Leto fans to see who gets that joke, and it's probably going to be about 3 people, and to those 3 people, you're welcome.
Conrad doesn't know that Jared Leto and me. You get another swing. Let's see who gets that one.
It's from the same movie, so we're dipping into the same pool.
That was as sung by Matt Damon. 3 times I've done it. 3.
Yeah, a great song and a great cameo. Hello and welcome to the best movie podcast ever. I suppose we are talking about movies, really. I was going to apologise for the non-movie related preamble, but it's all related.
I don't look at us. That's movie preamble we've just given them.
Exactly. You're
welcome.
That was organic banter, organic movie banter.
Yeah. You're welcome. That's 4 movies we've mentioned so far.
Lovely stuff. From Eurotrip to Batman to House of Gucci to Maui and that movie that he's in,
Moana.
That's the one. Without further ado, and before we get more distracted, I say let's talk about some gosh darn movies. What do you say?
Let's continue to do so.
Movies. After the title card come the movies. Here we are. Does the title card go there? I can't actually remember.
Well, there is a title card there, yeah, but it's also at the very beginning, so it's kind of just like a break.
It's been a long time since I've watched one of the video versions of our podcast. I am a subscriber. I am a subscriber to both.
But you're not a subscriber to the $18.99 content. You stay away from that, Conrad.
No, I've kept myself well away from that, much to my own chagrin. But I am a subscriber to the best movie podcast ever, as you should be too. But I mean, you're here, so you probably are anyway. So thanks. Yeah. We're here to continue our odyssey through the world of Batman. We did all the Joel Schumacher and Tim Burton ones. We've done 2 of the Christopher Nolan ones, and we're back again this week to talk about The Dark Knight Rises. And I think it's fair to say, coming into this movie, that The Dark Knight Rises had a big act to follow.
Yeah, the expectation was through the roof on this one. I would even say the expectation was even higher than the last one, even though they had the whole Heath Ledger wrap-up thing. I'm not going to lie to you, Conrad. I may have, on a holiday to France with my wife's family, when I was like 18 at this time, 19 maybe. I wasn't married at the time. But me and my wife's younger brother, my brother-in-law now, we shared a room on the holiday in France. We watched The Dark Knight every day for the 10-day holiday when we went to bed. No matter what time it was, sometimes we were falling asleep to it. But we watched it every single day in preparation of coming home from that holiday and going to see this in the cinema. And you know what? If my brother-in-law's listening to me, I don't forget, all right? I know you were only 13, 14 years old, but you went to see it with your friends the day after we got back, and that has hurt me to this day.
What, and you weren't invited?
I wasn't invited.
That's outrageous. That is. I would have thought that's a bond of stronger than brotherhood that you formed over that 10-day period. That fucking crucible of watching The Dark Knight every day for 10 days. That's 30, or actually it's probably a bit over 30. I'm not sure exactly how long it is, but around about 30 hours you've spent together.
Well, yes, exactly. And the thing is, what really hurts me, and I'm going to say it to the camera here, Dan, where's those friends now?
You've been called out, Dan.
Yeah.
You've been called out.
You chose the wrong horse there, boy.
You ran away with your so-called friends to watch The Dark Knight Rises, and look at where it brought you, right back to me.
But that's all right. I got to go there with Ema, so we enjoyed it. I think I saw it in the cinema like 3 times, maybe.
So okay, that was the next thing I was going to ask you, because this is the first time I've seen this movie since I saw it in the cinema.
Same with me.
Did I see it with you?
No, but it's the same with me. I haven't seen it since.
Oh, the same with you. Sorry.
We saw Interstellar, which was one of his next.
Yeah, it was Interstellar we saw together. That's right. Yeah. So I did not remember this that well. I only saw it the once. I had fond memories of it. Did you do you remember enjoying it at the time?
Yeah, I do. I think, let's get it out of the way right now, so we don't have to keep mentioning it. It's not the film that The Dark Knight is. No. But
I would say not even close, to be honest, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's still good. I think I really enjoy this film. I think that I like the story they told. I like how they put effort into linking it back to the first one, and then obviously the link from the second one through the Harvey Dent aspect of the film. Yeah, I think it tied together a trilogy really well.
Yeah, and I think it's to its credit and to Nolan's credit that it does so, because I think a lot of people look at this movie, and I can understand why they do it, and they say this is kind of the beginning of Nolan losing it a little bit. Like, up until this point, he'd pretty much
disagree.
Well, we know your stance on Christopher Nolan. Christopher can do no wrong, Nolan. But he, up until this point, I think it's probably fair to say that he'd not made a bad movie. He'd made movies of varying quality, but most of them had been of a really high standard, I think. And with The Prestige and Dark Knight immediately preceding this, he was absolutely cooking as a director. And he didn't actually want to do a trilogy. He wanted to end this after The Dark Knight, but eventually he was convinced to come back to do a third one after he read, I'm trying to remember which comics it was. I think there's one called Nightfall in 1993 that he read, which is the one where Bane breaks Batman's back, and the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns comics, which are a bit older than that, but that's like the old broken Batman coming back, redonning the cowl while being pursued by the police and the government that features in this. So he basically wasn't going to do it and ended up being convinced to do it. But for someone who was reluctant initially to do it, I think he did a pretty good job of pulling everything back together. And I think he increases I don't want to say increases the stakes, but he certainly has increased the action and the sort of bombastic nature of the movie. There's a lot more explosions, a lot more kind of chases and fights, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I think, at the same time. Like, there's a lot less character drama in this one. Yeah,
well, the stakes do go back up again to the similar levels as they were in the first. Like the whole city could go. It's interesting though that even though maybe it's because of the time we live in now with superhero films, it's interesting that, in my opinion, one of the best trilogies of superhero films ever, this Dark Knight trilogy, doesn't have a worldwide threat. It all is just Gotham focused, and in the world we live in of superhero movies now, that seems actually a bit of an outlier.
That's true. I think that's his powers that limit that. Because to be honest, while I was watching this movie, and we'll get to the conclusion where I said this, but I did turn to my fiance and said, surely Superman would get involved at this stage. Like, come on. What's he doing? That
he doesn't exist in this universe.
Well, I guess maybe he doesn't exist, but I always got to come on. Superman can't be that busy with whatever's going on in the rest of the world to not just pop in and fire a laser through Bane's chest and be like, "See you later," and then and then off he goes. But I think it is.
Yeah. I was going to say. I'll tell you what, though. You're talking about the end of the movie there. I tell you what. This film is maybe Chris Nolan's greatest hour. Now I know The Prestige is huge ones, but that's the whole point of it. But this film has quite a nice couple of Shyamalan twists.
Yeah. He really he fucking struggles to get them in, and then they all come in the last hour. Okay, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's start. As we mean to go on and go at least somewhat chronologically through this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christopher Nolan back in the writer-director seat. We got the familiar faces: Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman. Tom Hardy's in as Bane. Anne Hathaway is in as Catwoman, and Marianne Cotillard is in as... Oh, I've got a name down.
Cotillard.
Cotillard.
Well, we all know who she is, but what's
well,
she
we know
call
who
herself?
she becomes. I'm trying to remember her character's name before
She's that from.
She's called like Susan or something. I can't remember. She's got a very unremarkable name, but she's in.
Yeah.
Now
it's the classic. Someone's taking over Wayne Industries. Enterprises.
Yeah. So Batman movies, particularly The Dark Knight. Actually, really only The Dark Knight. In terms of the Nolan ones, at least, the Batman Begins doesn't really have one. But Nolan has made a kind of name for himself by starting these movies with big set pieces. And we get another one to start this one off. If you thought the bank set piece for The Dark Knight is impressive, watching them literally tow a real plane just through the air on another plane is pretty fucking impressive. It's not, I don't think it's quite as compelling from like a storytelling or character building perspective as the introduction of the Joker in The Dark Knight, but that stunt is all practical and it is fucking wild to see them pulling that off, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, hadn't seen this in the cinema, so I didn't know how that would be on the small screen, but it actually was still really, really good. It's because it's, as you say, it's all practical. Also, they're adding in, there is some storytelling in that, like the idea of the Doctor and the
Dr.
idea
Pavel,
changing the blood as well, geez,
that makes no sense. Like there is not enough time in that plane to do a full blood transfusion. Like, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that takes a long time to do.
This doctor has seemingly, solved. I think the people who are on dialysis every day would love that guy. You know what I mean?
They'd be like in and out in 15 minutes. Think of the change to the wait times for the NHS. They just be like, get them in, get them out. They're full of new blood, and we're ready to go, ready to face the day.
Exactly.
How did you feel about Aidan can't do an accent like the same across two scenes Gillen in this scene?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I really cringed at that. There's something he's doing, there's something he's doing with the character where, and now I've seen Aidan Gillen in other stuff, and it's not in other characters, so it's not a natural thing within him. But there's a campness he's giving this character, which I can't explain. Like he's like, okay, Aidan, you're playing an FBI agent who is going to try and get information or whatever about the biggest like crime boss in the world who can literally snap you back. Right? Okay. What's this guy going to be like?
He doesn't come across as very hard boiled.
He's not very hard boiled at all. Like he's very soft and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the way he's delivering the lines, it makes it feel a bit. It took me out of it, to be honest with you. Like if he wanted to be a softer character and even have that sort of slight bit of campness, I don't really see. There was just an aspect of it which didn't feel real to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it? I don't know.
I think I know where you're coming from. There's just. He's an actor who can sometimes really rub me the wrong way. His portrayal of Littlefinger in Game of Thrones was sometimes great, but as I say, the accent in that, sometimes it's Irish, sometimes it's like Welsh, and he is Irish, so I don't understand why his Irish accent sounds bad in Game of Thrones, but he's not doing great in this. What was that you just said? Hold on, let me turn on the subtitles, because Christopher Nolan has decided that this is the movie where he doesn't want anyone to understand what his main villains think saying. Yes, that's right, it's Bane. How did you find the introduction to Bane as a speaking character with his big guy for you and all that jazz that he's saying in this scene?
I'm a big fan of the character of Bane, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I actually do really like him. When I first, the voice itself, it's definitely a Marmite voice, isn't it? It's definitely as Simon Cowell would say, a Marmite voice.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me pose this question to you. Was Bane or Joker, in retrospect, more annoying for convincing a generation of young men that they could do a voice from a movie? Like, if you had to pick one of the two.
No question. Yeah.
Full disclosure, we knew someone who do the Bane voice unprompted at the and it was the worst. It was the worst.
Yeah. And if, I doubt that person's watching, but if they are, I don't care because they've literally ghosted me for like 6 years. So
it's just everyone. I think everyone had that person in their life who are like, "Oh, I was born in the darkness." It's like, fuck off! Like, it's not a good voice. Stop it. And it's Tom Hardy's fault.
You know what? It's interesting actually is that there's an aspect of that voice in moments. They kind, in my opinion, they kind of fail to make it cohesive with the scene. I think I like the voice. I like the choice they made for it. But at times, it's sort of, you can tell it's ADR'd in. You can tell it's not actually on the set. A bit like Darth Vader sometimes, you know?
Yes, definitely. And I think the fact that you literally, or I certainly do, I need to put subtitles on to understand what he's saying a lot of the time, which is not an option in the cinema where I saw this, and I remember being like, I don't understand about half of what Bane is saying in this movie. Like, I get the general gist of it because Tom Hardy is putting in quite a physical performance in this. You can kind of get the gist of what he's saying from, you know, physical mannerisms and context. But this is when you then go on to things like fucking Interstellar, and it's just like, can we just make it so we can understand what people are saying in your movies?
Sound doesn't travel in a vacuum, Conrad. But
yeah, I mean,
that's the inspiration behind that. But see the Bane thing though, right? Okay, when he's in the mask, makes sense. It sells it to me that this is a cool villain, you know. And yes, it is, takes me out a little bit because of the ADR nature. But when it shows, you know, skipping forward to with and without the mask, and you see his human face without the mask, I don't believe that voice comes from that man. To me, that sort of I can't imagine that man in that pit speaking that way. You know, without the mask
I mean, maybe he had like his like larynx crushed during that fracas.
That's actually him having to put all the effort into the voice.
Yeah, he's got like one of those Kane like voice box things, like that, one of those things, and that's but it's like a futuristic one that makes him high and squeaky.
I mean, if he does have that, then that's solved the problem for a lot of people in the world. Like, you know, that's actually, this film has a lot of medical marvels. We'll just say
it certainly does. Well, speaking of which, we'll talk about Batman now, because Batman begins this movie in not a great way. He's hobbling around on a cane. He's been secluded for 8 years, or retired for 8 years. Oh wait, no, actually no, that's not true. It's been 8 years since The Dark Knight, and he's been retired for some nondescript amount of time. But,
he's been on the run. Does that mean that he's just not appeared since? I think they maybe mentioned that he hadn't been there since the night Harvey Dent died.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he certainly spent a lot of time retired. You can tell that he's not in a good way because he's got a little hint of grey at the temples now, which means he's old. And apparently, he just spends his time indoors doing archery. That's his weekend, or that's his evening entertainment, because he almost kills Selena Kyle, who is. How long do you think you'd be entertained just doing archery indoors as a billionaire?
I mean, I've only ever done archery indoors, so...
Oh, I didn't realise I was talking to a kindred spirit of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, well, I also hobble around the house, but not because I fought bad guys. But, so, I do, actually, because I used to do it in like a school gym, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Well,
so I've never actually shot a bow and arrow outside.
I actually just wanted to mention something as well, that I was supposed to... It's in my notes. I was supposed to say it at the end of that before I threw that question to you, and I forgot to do it. But a few months ago, you asked for like anti-Chekhov's guns, like basically a gun that is revealed in a movie that isn't fired at all. And I wrote down a note on this saying like, oh, they established that Bruce does archery, and it's never mentioned again throughout the rest of the
I think you're actually right. That counts. That does count. And
I was like, I've got to bring this up because Anthony asked for it, and bloody hell, Christopher Nolan of all people gave it to us.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think I'm not going to overshadow that, but there's also a case for Catwoman's safe cracking skills too.
Yeah, that's brought in once and never again. Just like, well, I don't know. She stole some jewels, or stole some
pearls.
Rather.
She can just do it.
She just does whatever she wants. So, okay, but yeah, so Batman not doing great. Wayne Enterprises is making no money because of some failed fusion reactor MacGuffin. Bruce has lost touch with Gotham. Poverty's going unchecked. The main thing I wanted to get to about this is, and we'll get to the sort of medical miracle that we alluded to a moment ago, is how do you feel about the sort of opening hour or so of this movie where all the cops are like twiddling their thumbs and are just like, there's nothing to do because Batman's fixed everything. Let's just chill out and go and, get some donuts or whatever. It very much has like a everything is fixed, we have nothing to do vibe. But yet the movie is still asking you as a viewer to buy into this idea that poverty is absolutely rampant, and it allows Bane to like recruit this army of like disaffected and disowned orphans to kind of join his League of Shadows.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't think Christopher Nolan understands where crime comes from.
No, I don't think he does.
Yeah, like he thinks like, you just lock up 1,000 people. It doesn't matter how much poverty and hardship you have in the world.
No, we got rid of the criminals. These are the good poor people.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're not going to be desperate at any point.
It does come across a little bit like that. Like we will lock them up and now everyone's fine, because no matter who gets born in this neighborhood now, no one's going to want to steal anything from us. They were the unruly ones, and that's not how crime works.
Exactly.
The poverty situation is still there. I mean, I would have loved for them to make some sort of allusion to, through the Harvey Dent Foundation, we've been able to fund this, fund that. It's like, no, we're literally living in peace because we locked everyone up.
Yeah,
that's not how it works. You lock up the bad guys or the criminals. Well, no, so criminals, and then in quotation marks, bad guys, did it the wrong way around. If you lock them up, there's going to be people who take their place, because unfortunately you don't just lock them all up at the same time.
Yeah, especially if
you lock up one, and then they go, all right, who are we going to get to sell the drugs now? Let's go and get that 14-year-old boy who's enjoying school and has great friends and plays video games. Let's make him a drug dealer. That's what they do.
Well, it's and it's very. I don't like Christopher Nolan as a writer some of the time. Sometimes he's great. I think this is the beginning of me losing a little bit of faith in him, because I think this conflict in what he's depicting belies a pretty fundamental misunderstanding of like how crime happens. Like if you don't fix the systemic issues that cause poverty, then crime is going to ensue from that poverty, because people get desperate and are forced to commit crime to survive. And crime just breeds more crime. So I think, it definitely struck me as weird. And to the film's credit, they do drop it pretty quickly. Like where all the cops have got nothing to do, we're just hanging out. Like they sort of mention that a couple of times in the first half hour, and I feel like Nolan, as he was writing the screenplay for this, was like, actually that doesn't make any sense, so maybe I'll stop mentioning that. And suddenly the cops have things to do. Admittedly, Bane turns up as well, so that's part of it. But that frustrated me. And as you've mentioned as well, we get hints of this, the Dent Act, which essentially seems like we've mentioned in the past, or I've mentioned in the past, how Nolan's Dark Knight, or Nolan's Batman trilogy is kind of a response to Bush's America. And the Dent Act is basically the Patriot Act, in that it's like, oh, we can just lock people up for being without trial because the system has failed. So this allows us to get around that some way. They never really go into it. But again, they're sort of trying to depict Gotham as this like flawed utopia, or this utopia built on a lie, I think, at the beginning of this movie. And it's not utopian in the slightest.
No, it's not. It's just, how's it utopian? Because someone who needs to go and collect job seekers allowance can get there without being mugged. I just don't understand the view.
And there's still loads of white collar crime as well, as we see in this movie.
But why? Like, if it is such a utopia now, why is Bane against it?
Because he just wants to finish the job of the League of Shadows, I think. Is his task.
Which it's like, no, didn't you hear? We fixed it, Bane. We've actually,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine now. So
America's greatest city has resolved its problems. So
very strange.
Fuck off to Metropolis or whatever. So moving on from Batman then.
Well, actually, Connor, are you talking about Batman? You're saying moving on from Batman. we didn't get Batman.
No, that's true. He's
Batman,
not really in it this bit.
Batman is in about 25 minutes of this film total.
Yeah.
Which is way less than Batman Begins even.
Yeah, no, that is... Well, actually, I should correct myself there, and you're very right to bring me up on it. This section of my notes is actually called Bruce the Recluse, because there is no Batman in it.
Bruce the
Recluse. He's not in it. He's just wandering around in his dressing gown, which I'm not judging him. That's not judgment. I spent plenty of days wandering around in my dressing gown. But yeah, there's no Batman to be seen. Did you find the lack of kind of action after the opening set piece off-putting at all? Because it takes a while to get going.
No, actually, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm an interesting man, right? I don't think I have.
That's a humble brag.
Yeah, I'm an interesting man. I don't think that I've ever watched a film and thought to myself, I need more action here. I've definitely thought films are boring. But just because there's a lack of action set pieces and stuff, that doesn't make me bored in and of itself. Okay. I actually didn't get bored watching this movie.
Okay, that's a good sign. I mean, I'm kind of that way with like car chases specifically. Like for whatever reason, I've never, or not. I don't want to say never, but I've rarely enjoyed car chases. So often I'll be like, fuck me, do we have to have another one of these? Like in like a Fast and the Furious movie or whatever.
A lot of the time car chases aren't innovative. Like they are, it's like they are very much like the same thing again. Either that or it's like, let's catch people flying through the air with a car. And, you know,
yeah, which we've already...
there has to be some sort of innovation without going that far.
Yeah, and as we said before, like Batman invented the car functioning as a pillow trope. So Fast and Furious isn't even doing that. They couldn't even originate that meme. But we've talked about Bruce a bit. We'll come back to Batman when he actually turns up, because there's really the second big set piece of the movie is when Batman shows up. I just wanted to briefly touch on Catwoman, because she's well, I'll ask you this. Where do you rank Hathaway's Catwoman against Pfeiffer, Zoe Kravitz, and if push comes to shove, Halle Berry as well?
Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Definitely
and you could do like
Berry.
Eartha Kitt as well in the 60s, like, but I don't know if you've seen any of the 60s ones. Yeah.
Well, I saw some of it, not all of it. I would definitely rank Halle Berry the lowest.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
It is harsh. I mean,
that movie is garbage.
See, the movie is garbage. I think she could have made a good Catwoman, in an actual good film. For me, this might be controversial. It is just the next one up, Anne Hathaway.
Get him out!
What have you got? What? It's a fossil. Oh, brilliant!
Bring it on the show.
I'll be out in a minute. All right. All right. Bye. All right. Sorry about that interruption. I might not even delete that.
Leave it in.
Yeah.
Let the people see.
Just let the people see. This is what it's like. All right. 3 kids under 4. We're Konrad and I are like what do you call it? It's like I'm sort of stealing a moment with my lover.
Yeah.
While the family's in the room next door.
Sometimes kids want to show you fossils. That's just the reality of being a parent.
I know it's brilliant and really cute. It's literally like a little rock, but he thinks it's a fossil. Brilliant stuff.
Nice.
I'm loving it. But anyway, talking about fossils. Halle Berry. No, I'm just kidding. What do you call it? Anne Hathaway's definitely.
You said that, not me. I'm taking no responsibility for that one.
No. So Halle Berry number 4, Anne Hathaway number 3.
Yeah.
I would say Kravitz is number 2.
Yeah.
Minus the mask. And then number 1 would be the Selena Kyle, which is played by Pfeiffer.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah. I think I'd probably agree with that. I think Anne Hathaway is. She doesn't. It's difficult because like. She's obviously, and I hate being like, let's talk about how hot actresses are. But I mean, sexuality is a pretty key part of Catwoman's character. And I think Anne Hathaway is a very attractive woman, and I think she manages to get some of the sort of sexiness. But for whatever reason, I feel like Christopher Nolan isn't quite sure what he wants her character to be, and he doesn't really develop her at all. And then towards the end of the movie, he's like, okay, we've kind of implied that she has a friend who might be like a prostitute that she lives with, and maybe that's why she has this like kind of dislike of the rich and this affinity for the poor. But we're barely going to develop that, and instead here's a shot of Anne Hathaway's arse as she gets on a motorbike. It's like it's a bit like it's kind of like substituting in a shot of an attractive woman in skin-tight leather for actual characterization, which I don't like very much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I think that it's interesting as well because like the costume design is actually very conservative, which I was happy to see because I don't like the idea of just pushing this character as a sex symbol. But then the way that they were sort of shooting her in certain aspects, it felt like that's what they were going for as well. I don't know, like the idea of just like getting a clean slate, and that's her character's drive. With a program called Clean Slate, which is like as someone who works in development, I can tell you right now that program wouldn't have that name. It would have some ridiculous name given to it by some tech bro CEO. Yeah, I like the whole like idea of wanting a clean slate. To be honest with you, I'm not really buying it, like because I didn't buy it as a huge brilliant motivation because at the same time it's like, was she actually that wanted? Like, that's the
thing. You never really get a sense of the past she's supposedly running away from. It's like, okay, your friend is poor and maybe you engage in some like low-level criminality, but it's not like you're hunted at every turn by some really dangerous gangsters. It's just kind of it's a really weak character motivation.
Like she's walking in and walking into these big gangsters, to try and get this technology. She's not afraid of them whatsoever, and I'm just like, this isn't someone who needs saved. And at the same time as well, it's like, just try moving to LA, and then like if they follow you across the country, they follow you across the country, then go for the clean slate.
Go to Florence for a bit. Like, that's what you need to do.
But she might not be able to get out of the country because of her record. So I'm just saying, like, go somewhere else in the US.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If they still follow you, then get the clean slate. You don't need it until you try out moving away for a bit. Just get a break.
Yeah. I will say that the scene, which I think it might be a contractual requirement for any Batman movie, to have Bruce at a ball of some kind where he meets a sexy lady and they dance and probably share some secrets about how they're wearing masks and they have dual identities.
Well, what's interesting about that, Konrad, is that he wasn't wearing a mask. Of course he wasn't, because Bruce Wayne is his true mask. We've talked about that before.
They've literally done that visual metaphor in Batman movies before.
But the thing is, this is interesting though, it is a new take on it because Selina Kyle had a mask on. Now, in the other one, in the Tim Burton one, Selina Kyle didn't have a mask on, so the idea is that she is truly Catwoman as well. So Selina Kyle is her mask. I took it to mean that because she was looking for a clean slate and she had a mask on, is that her true identity, Selina Kyle, is actually her true identity here.
Yeah, I think there is.
Catwoman is not her true identity.
I think, that's a good...
Which is different.
Good observation. It is slightly different, but I mean, I couldn't help but roll my eyes a little bit when it was like, did you see Batman Returns? Because you're literally doing the same thing they did in that movie, guys. It is a good scene. I mean, I'll criticize the characterization of Selina Kyle. I think it's pretty a weakly written part, but Anne Hathaway and Christian Bale have great chemistry, and that scene, I think there's electricity between them in that scene. I don't really buy the romance as it develops over the course of this movie. But in that scene, they're great together, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
How do you... there's two things I wanted to mention before we move on from Selina Kyle. One, how did you feel about the police response time when she gets that gangster to use the senator that she kidnaps' phone? Because they are there in about 10 seconds, which is...
they got nothing to do.
Even if they got nothing to do, were they just were there like 30 police cars just literally around the corner from that bar?
Well, there are over 30 police cars available. We know that from a later scene.
Yeah, that's true. They get Matthew Modine gets the whole goddamn town in on the Batmobile chase.
Yeah, exactly. I should say the police in Gotham. That's the thing. They all want to prove themselves. Like in Hot Fuzz, whenever Simon Pegg's character has got like the most arrests. This is like, there's another one coming in.
Is it more fossils this time?
No, it's more forests this time. I think you're gonna have to leave. This one will have to be a pause because he's too young. You gonna go? Where's Mummy? All right, I'm gonna go take him away.
Okay, no
I'm gonna
worries.
keep recording now.
Yeah, I'll leave myself recording.
A few moments later.
The last thing I wanted to say on the Selena Kyle section, which I think is probably the most important thing, is did you notice that when Bruce drives his Lambo to the ball and gets out, there's a bunch of like photographers, and one of them recognizes him and was like, "Holy shit, it's Bruce Wayne." Did you notice that the guy who says that is the "you like babes Bob" guy from Always Sunny?
No.
You know when Dennis is trying to sell his Land Rover and it's like in the river, and he's telling this like kind of quite short, quite overweight guy is like, "Just me and a babe in the back of a convertible. You like babes, Bob?" Like, and that's the guy. That is it's the babes Bob guy who recognizes him.
That's great.
I couldn't believe it. I had to rewind when I saw
You like
it.
babes, Bob?
Yeah. Oh, that's all I need out of the Batman universe now is for Glenn Howerton and like Rob McElhenney to appear in it in some capacity.
I'd love a Rob McElhenney as Batman and Glenn Howerton as Joker film.
Oh yeah, that he would be a very good Joker. Like Dennis Reynolds is essentially already the Joker in a lot of ways, to be honest.
Yeah, what the hell?
Okay, right. We're into the action now. I'm going to fly through a couple of these and give you some moments to talk about them. But we get a big action scene here. So we've kind of done our due diligence. We've got through the boring Gotham's fixed, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's loads of poverty kind of stuff that they do in the first hour, which is a bit hit and miss, and the Selena Kyle stuff's a bit boring. And then we get the stock exchange heist where Bane is like kind of fully introduced as a villain, or reintroduced, I guess, as a villain, and Batman comes back. How did you find this as like just an action set piece? First off,
yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting, to be quite honest with you, that they went. The actual logic of it was a bit strange for me. The actual action set piece was alright. I liked it, but the logic of it was strange, where they went into the stock exchange to plug something in, to download files or to ruin it, corrupt it, whatever they were doing. And then they're standing waiting. And then Bane says, "How long have you got left?" or whatever, right? And he's like, "It's going to take 14 minutes or whatever, right?" And he's like, "Let's go mobile." It's like, why didn't you just go mobile
just do that to begin with?
Yeah, why were you standing waiting on the police to come? Like,
They don't want to use their minutes or their data. Like it's like, they've not got an unlimited data plan. So if they could do it on the Gotham Stock Exchange's Wi-Fi or
LAN
network,
connection,
that'd be a lot better. But I mean, you take the hit for the society's going to collapse anyway. So I think Bane at this point was like, you know what? I'm not going to need to pay this bill. It'll be
that really interested me. And then they all pop out on motorbikes, which was cool as well.
Yeah, that was cool. But I mean, also like, I don't know where they were or how they navigated them through those corridors. To be honest.
Yeah. Oh well, they did all right. Like, stock exchange getting attacked feels quite Christopher Nolan.
Well, yeah. I mean, it definitely does, and it's a very kind of Nolan style set piece. It's got the classic. And very cool, I will say, moment where like they're driving through like the tunnel and all the lights start going off, and one of the older cops is like, "Oh, you're in for a show tonight, kid," and then they turn back on and Batman's back, and it kind of shows that it gives you a sense of how much time has passed, and also that there are still cops in Gotham who are on Batman's side, despite Matthew Modine, who. I'm just going to say this right now. Matthew Modine in this movie is a piece of shit. We all know that. He's supposed to be like a cowardly dickhead. But there is no way that anyone would be like, "Oh, let's ignore this active robbery to catch the guy who killed Harvey Dent, who is doing nothing." Like, they don't even know that it's Harvey Dent in the car, I don't think. Oh, don't even know it's Batman, rather, in the car, right? I mean, it's the bike he turns up on. So I guess they do know it's him.
It is a bike, but then he like drives and gets into the plane.
Yeah,
they do know, but I know what you mean. Like, there's literally people who've just attacked the stock.
They have hostages.
Yeah,
what are you going to do about the hostages? They'll be like, "Oh, they'll be all right. They'll figure that out like amongst themselves."
Like these good honest cops who've been sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Decide to go and try and catch a killer who's already killed, isn't killing right now, rather than save hostages' lives. I mean, that sort of says everything it needs to, doesn't
It's
it?
just so ridiculous. We'll come back to cops doing ridiculous things in this movie in a little bit because there is some wild shit. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good action set piece. We get to see the bats, the kind of helicopter plane thing. One point I thought I'd make, and I thought it'd be interesting to get your take on it. Batman just has guns on everything now.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this last week because I thought it was really interesting. Now, we've already gone quite long, Konrad, so I might just start jumping around. I know you're going to go through things, but Catwoman uses the gun on the bike later on and kills somebody. Kills Bane, in fact.
Yeah, kills Bane.
So, and she says, I decided that I don't share your rule for guns. It's like, you're using his bike. Yeah. Like that, you just used his guns to break his rule.
Well, exactly. And like when Talia al Ghul is escaping with the bomb from Gotham in the truck, and he fires missiles at the front of the truck and kills the driver, and Talia and effectively kills Talia al Ghul as well because she's impaled and slowly bleeds to death. And it's just like you just killed those people.
That's a good point. That is
there's no like comedy Michael Keaton dropping a dude with some dynamite on his chest down a sewer involved. Like missiles fire at the front of a truck and the people driving it are dead afterwards. And it's just like, okay, are we not gonna make more of a deal out of this?
Which it would be interesting if like in Batman Begins he said no guns, and then like now he's like grown and he's like come
make
back
it a character
he's more gritty now. But he literally said within half an hour before that when he was fighting with Catwoman, and he was like no guns. You know, he literally said that. So
it's a wild inconsistency in the characterization. As you say, I'm not precious about Batman using guns. If you want to break that rule of the character and make it a character moment, fine, like do that, but justify it, but you can do it. But in this, it's just he just kills some people, and it's fine, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to skip over all of the corporate espionage stuff because it's kind of boring and undercooked, but basically Bruce is being squeezed from all sides. Someone's trying to take over Wayne Enterprises. He's losing the money because of the fusion reactor project. All of which is just a long-winded way of getting a MacGuffin under Gotham that is going to blow up the city.
And also getting the main key player into the position of power. I'll say one thing when we'll skip over it, right? And the MacGuffin is there and all that sort of thing. Talia al Ghul, who I can't remember her actual name.
I'm looking for it now. We'll call her Susan.
This is something, again, which Christopher Nolan... I'm not as big of a critic as Christopher Nolan's writing as you, but... So I'm going to put this one on David S. Goya, right?
All right. Finally, someone does.
Like, why the hell, whenever Talia al Ghul decides to jump in and save the man who's going to get killed by Bane, he's also a member of the board, right? Is there any chance that the woman who somehow became the member of the board, like she's like the chairman of Wayne Enterprises now, she was voted the chairman. I know it was I know she got there quickly. It was a meteoric rise to the top, right? I don't think it's realistic that she wouldn't know the name of every other board member. So whenever he's about to get killed and she says to Lucius Fox, they're going to kill this man. It's like, no, they're going to kill Greg. She knows who this is.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it's a high pressure situation. Maybe she's forgot his name. Like I've had conversations where, and I still think those things that you do in life where you wake up 10 years later, or you're trying to fall asleep and you remember it 10 years later, and it makes you cringe so hard that you immediately like are fully awake again. Yeah, it's normally when you try to fall asleep that they come back to you. I was having a conversation with someone once, and I said whatever I was saying to them, and then I was looking directly at them, and for whatever reason, rather than kind of like disguise it or try and do some wordplay to get around actually naming them, I just looked them straight in the eye and said, and this is someone I'd known for about 2 years at this point, and worked with every day. I said, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten your name. and they told me, and the conversation carried on. Nothing.
You don't do that, Konrad.
No,
there must have been someone you could
I looked back
ask.
at that moment, and I was just like, I can't believe I did that.
There must have been some way you could have found out.
There were other options. There were definitely other options, but my brain was like, this is the path to take, I think. I think that's what's happened to Talia al Ghul in this situation. She's just like, I don't know. it's a high stakes situation. I'm just gonna say this man.
You can imagine if she said Greg, and he's like, "My name's not Greg. My name's John.
Barry.
Yeah, my name's Barry. My name's Barry."
We've worked together for 8 years.
Yeah, all of a sudden they just start arguing in front of Bane.
Yeah, no, it's like there's bigger fish to fry at that point, I think. So I understand it. I do understand it. I will say, for the corporate espionage stuff, talking about underdeveloped female characters in this movie, Talia al Ghul. We talked about those Shyamalan twists, and her reveal. It comes really late in the movie, pretty much immediately before she dies. Really, like she's revealed, she runs off, and she gets blown up, or she gets impaled in a truck. How did you feel about her as a character? Because I find her to be very underwritten. Like, there's not really anything to her.
Okay, I think I know what you mean, but at the same time, we spent the whole film thinking that Bane was the one who escaped the prison.
Yeah.
And therefore, whenever it's Shyamalan twisted and we find out that it's actually her, maybe that backstory they gave that character before finding out it was her didn't translate onto her for you. You know what I mean?
It's more that you don't really learn anything about who the person in the pit. Like, you learn about what happened to them, like who their mother was, and that their dad was Ra's al Ghul, and all that jazz. So you do get that, but I think the stuff that I'd be interested, and I understand why it happens, because the twist comes so late. They can't really give you the information before the twist, and there's no time to do it after the twist, just because of the way the plot is structured. But I think for me, I needed to know what happened between her getting out of that pit and where she is right now, that made her suddenly decide, oh, actually, my dad had some good ideas, and I want to carry on his legacy. Because I think there's literally there's like one scene where she's like, I went to find my dad and we were friends, and then
and now I'm going to destroy Gotham. Yeah. Well, she just became a member of the League of Shadows. She became
anyone in, apparently.
Well, it's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul.
I suppose I mean, it's all nepotism, isn't it? It's like the BBC.
Actually, my criticism of them wouldn't be that she's undercooked. She is undercooked, but it's that they just let her represent the League of Shadows, rather than actually having her own. So it's not really a new bad guy in that respect. You know what I mean? Whereas Bane was kind of also that, but we also had the sort of feeling that he was excommunicated from the League of Shadows, interestingly. I don't, but that didn't really seem to go anywhere either. Was he or wasn't he? I still don't really know.
I think that's unclear, but I think for Bane at least, Hardy gets enough screen time that he's able to bring something to the role.
Yeah.
You kind of get a sense of the character through his performance, even if there's not necessarily very much written about the character in the screenplay. Whereas Talia al Ghul, I think she's in one scene, or maybe two scenes, but she barely speaks. She's like, it's shown the MacGuffin, it's purely perfunctory. Then her and Bruce sleep together. She becomes CEO, and then the next time you see her, she's basically Talia al Ghul, and it's like, oh, she's a bad guy now, and it doesn't have much, didn't carry much weight for me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I did like the connection with the League of Shadows. I liked the reveal, but they could have put more effort into the character. I agree.
Okay. Right, the last two sections here. These might go long, so we'll try and keep ourselves as brief as we possibly can. But the first one I wanted to do is a biggie. We've kind of touched on it already, but Bane as a character, we've talked about the voice, and we talked about the sound editing, but his dialogue in this movie, I think, is worth pointing out because he gets so many classic lines. He's probably the best written character in the whole movie, I think, even if you can't understand half of what he's saying.
I'm a Bane fanboy. I'm not even gonna I don't deny the generation I'm from. I don't deny being a white guy who was a teenager during the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't deny that.
Christopher Nolan is your birthright.
My Christopher Nolan is my birthright. I've moved on. I've grown. I've grown politically and ethically, but I still have my roots in a good old fashioned Joker T-shirt. I do. I can't deny it. I can't deny it. Did
you spot the moment? So I mean, talking about how I do agree with you to a certain extent. Like, I still really like these movies, and I think Bane is for all the flaws in the screenplay of this movie, I think Bane is one of the better written characters. There's a moment after the MacGuffin is switched on where Bane takes Dr. Pavel down and goes to pull the core out of it. And when he does, I think it's either Lucius Fox or Sue, the character that Marion Cotillard plays, who says, if you pull the core, I wrote this down because I couldn't believe it made it into the final film. If you pull the core out of the reactor, it'll explode in moments. To which Bane replies, 5 precisely.
5 moments.
which it reminded me of that Simpsons
months.
joke.
It must have been months.
I'm pretty sure he said moments. Like,
no, okay. Well, I'm not gonna battle you here, Conrad. But I'm in that moment. I understood it to mean 5 months.
Okay,
so I think that they must have said months.
I will hold my hand up and say, if I misheard that, fair enough. But as soon as he said
you had subtitles on.
Yeah, of course I had subtitles on. It's fucking The Dark Knight Rises.
Well, maybe the subtitle was wrong because I heard months.
Okay, well, if that's wrong, I'll point my hand at the subtitles and be like, that's on you.
Yes, yeah.
Dark Knight Rises Blu-ray, but. It did remind me of the Simpsons joke where Principal Skinner is asked to step outside for a moment, and then he comes back in, looking at his watch, going, "Okay, that's exactly 1 moment." Which I want it to be true, just because that joke is funny, and this is funny by extension. But yeah, so the ending. Then let's get into it, because the ending of this movie. There's the first thing I'm going to do, and I think you're going to agree with me when I say this, is the ending of this movie was very unfairly maligned for a Cinema Sins style flaw. You know, like those kind of people. I've just said Cinema Sins. Like, fuck them, I don't care. I don't like what they make. Where they're like, how exactly did Batman make it back from here to here in 2 days? It's like, fuck off. You've never seen a movie before. Like, who cares about that?
Yeah.
A lot of people said, like, there's no way that Batman could have gotten back from having his back broken, stuck in the pit, in 23 days. Which...
Well, it was 5 months, as we just said, so...
Well, no, it's 23 days from like, when he leaves. There is 23 days left until the bomb explodes.
Right.
So he has 23 days to get back from wherever he is. It looks like it's, like, somewhere in North Africa or, like, the Arabian Peninsula, somewhere like that.
There's no chance. Planes didn't exist.
No. But, like, I was waiting for it, and I think what a bunch of people did is there's a moment where the bomb is rolled into a truck, and it shows, like, a 24-hour timer on it, which I think is just, like, a rolling 24-hour timer, because they literally say in the next scene that there's 23 days until the bomb goes off.
But does it not skip a little bit of time, maybe?
Well... Yeah, but it would be after that.
When they actually originally set the bomb, right, and he said 5 exactly, and that is 5 months. I'm telling you now, I heard months, right?
Okay.
How long after that does Batman get taken away, like, and Batman go down with Catwoman to fight Bane? It wouldn't be that long after. I think it would probably be days, a week at most. Because from that point on, he gets taken away. So therefore, he gets his back broken, and he doesn't come back for 5 months. Then is my point.
Yeah. But well, I think we're saying the same thing, which is essentially that I think the timeframes of this are entirely reasonable, and there was a generation of movie quote-unquote critics on the internet who decided that they were going to criticize this movie for something that is absolutely fine. I don't think there's any problem with it whatsoever.
Even if it was 23 days, I'm thinking, like, they popped his back in, and then he, like, had 3 weeks of recovery / you know, whatever, working out. He climbed out of the pit in a lot of pain, went back to Lucius Fox and said, "Here, I need all my stuff again." And then he said, "Also, have you got a lot of fucking drugs? Because
can you pop some ibuprofen in the bat belt?
Yeah.
For later?
Put me full of morphine, boy. I'm getting through this day. Just get me through, Lucius. Get me through this day. Yeah. Right?
Give me the injections."
He probably got to, like, the nearest town in Africa, rang up Lucius Fox and said, "Send me a plane and put morphine on the plane because I need it right now."
Yeah, whatever drugs we have left over in R&D, send them.
We're talking about a Batman movie where he has a guy who can make him anything he wants, and we don't believe that, you know, he immediately got drugs, and he immediately got picked up when he got out of that pit.
Yeah, and to be honest, we've already seen, like, his magic mechanical knee brace thing that fixed his knee and made him like super strong and able to kick brick walls apart. So
what was that about?
I don't know what that was. That was bizarre. But I mean, it's within the logic of the movie. It's entirely reasonable to assume that they have a similar thing for spines as well.
Yeah, like, guys, let's just talk about this, right?
Yeah.
If that knee brace can make his ankle strong enough to kick a wall, anything's possible.
It makes no sense. It's like, what? So are your shin bones just made of steel now? Like,
but also, why do we not also think that when he got back to Lucius, didn't Lucius just give him the same thing he put on his knee, but on his back?
Yeah,
you
on
know
his
what I
spine,
mean?
on everything. Stick it on the whole. But give me the whole exoskeleton.
It's
That's
the,
what
the
you
whole
need.
new bat suit is actually just that stuff.
Yeah, he's essentially just Iron Man at the end of this movie, but just in a bat suit. So I think that's fine. I think the ending of this movie is the best stuff in this movie. I think the cop trap where they all run underground is kind of dumb, but also fine. Like, you know, I think the Batman goes to jail stuff, the amazing trailer moment, and you can tell they made this moment with a trailer in mind, with the single child singing the Star Spangled Banner as the football field explodes. I didn't catch the name of the team. I called them the Gotham City Batmen because I don't know what they're called.
The Riddlers.
But, they're going to struggle to win the championship this year. I'll tell you that.
They have to get a new field laid, but
and a new team as well because they all blew up.
Yeah. We didn't talk at all about Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this film, but
he's nothing. He's nothing in this.
He's someone there to remind Bruce that even though we don't fund the home for boys anymore, there's still no crime. So is it that big of a problem? Like, if there's no crime, all these boys must be going to university. Like, what's the issue like?
Yeah. No. Well, you'd hope so, but I mean, they don't have the money to fund it or something. I don't know
Well, Bruce just stopped funding it for some reason. But I love as well in Batman films. I was like, it's like one orphanage is the whole heartbeat of the city. Yeah. It's the whole heartbeat of the city. And then obviously we find out at the end that.
That's a Robin
little
right there.
Shyamalan twist. I personally hate the fact that they're just like, well, why don't you use your real name, Robin? I love that. You know, I get it.
It's
he's going to be the
throwaway.
he's going to be Nightwing or the next Batman or whatever. I just have it. Why do we need that moment? Why can't he just be called Robin from the start or Dick?
They should just, they should make him Dick Grayson or Tim Drake or whatever. Like, it's kind of dumb for them to be like, my name is Burt Jefferson or whatever the fuck his name is, but then he's going to be the Robin at the end of this. It's like, but that's not any of the Robins. It doesn't make sense. Like, why have that moment?
He's gonna take over as Batman or Nightwing. I honestly think that they should have called him Tim Drake or whatever. Yeah, because like if you want that moment of him like becoming the next Batman or whatever, like 95% of the audience aren't gonna know Tim Drake is Robin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like, and it makes it feel like you actually put a bit more thought into it than just being like, I don't know, at the end of the movie we'll say he's Robin, and then we can have him rappel into the Batcave, and that's the end of the movie.
Also, too short. He's too short to be Batman.
He is too short, and that accent is not as nowhere near as intimidating as Batman's. I think it's safe to say.
I'll put it on. Don't worry, I'll put it on.
he has one of my favorite he really gets punked out in this movie a lot, to be honest. Like, he spends a lot of the movie just getting beaten up by street thugs in a way that Batman wouldn't. And then there's the bit where they're on the bridge and he's trying to get the kids out, and they can't because the army have been told to shoot anyone who tries to leave because otherwise the bomb will detonate. And Batman is in, actually it might be Catwoman who does it, but someone's got one of the bat vehicles and they like blow up the side of a building, and as soon as it happens he like grabs a bunch of the children, and the explosion of the bomb is supposedly imminent, and he goes, "Here we go, it's happening!" And it's like, that's not what a nuclear explosion looks like, you fucking idiot. Like, if the thing that's going to explode is a nuke, you're not going to know about it when it goes off. Alright, it's like you're immediately going to die. Like, they don't just set off little tiny explosions in the sides of buildings. He's awful. He's just an awful character.
I will say one thing about him, then something else as well. I don't think that it was realistic the way he knew who Batman was. Just because like they're both orphans. I know what orphans are like. I know. It's like that was really cheesy. Yeah. And then the other thing is that another Shyamalan twist is that The bloody autopilot was fixed the whole time.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that the very ending of this movie, where Batman gets possession of the bomb and takes it out to sea, is functionally no different than the Adam West 60s Batman, where he's running around the pier with the enormous bomb looking for somewhere to put it?
It's a reference. I'll give him that.
I'm not joking when I say this. I think it is a reference, because there's no way that they were like, Batman runs around trying to dispose of a bomb, and we're like, okay, this is literally what they did in the 60s one. But all we're doing is putting a plane in this.
Yeah, also, like... See, I know they were trying to lay groundwork for the big emotional thing of, Alfred sees Bruce across the table, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, the music, right? It's a cool moment. But when I was rewatching the film and hadn't seen it since the cinema, I remembered the moment at the end. I didn't remember the setup for the moment. I knew there would be a setup, but I didn't remember the setup. And he just launches into that story for no good reason. No good reason. He just starts talking about, every time when you were away, I used to go to Florence, right? And he's like started telling this story out of nowhere. It's like,
it's very conspicuous, that story. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if you're paying attention to what the characters are saying, it's like, okay, so that's how this movie's ending then.
Also, Batman is like, Bruce Wayne immediately goes, I'm going to have to find out where that restaurant was, because if I ever go missing, I'll need to show up there for him. Like, how did he know?
They don't show the bit preceding that final scene where him and Catwoman are, like, stressfully running around Florence with Google Maps open, and like the Lonely Planet guide being like, where the fuck is this bar? He's gonna be there any minute now. Like, he's only there for one day.
Yeah, also like, right, if they've scrubbed her from all the databases, how did she leave America?
I mean, Lucius sorted her out, didn't he? He can get a fake passport.
Not only that, he jumped out of the bat plane, right? Presumably, he jumped out of it into the water.
Yeah.
What did he do then? Like, sneak back into the city, avoiding all of the cameras, getting her and saying, "Hey, I'm not actually dead. Let's go."
You've seen Batman Forever, like, by sea or by air. Like, he had a bat boat.
He had it waiting there.
He'd stowed away.
Lucius knew the whole time. That means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever mentioned it, which doesn't make sense. So the last thing I wanted to mention then, you've already touched on it, but coming from Inception, which has a similar ending to this in that it tries to be a bit open-ended about the fate of our hero. Would you have preferred it had it not cut away to Batman at the end? If it had just shown Alfred looking at the camera, kind of like nodding, and then cut to credits?
Yeah, I would have preferred that. I'll tell you why.
Would as well. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because we already knew that the autopilot was fixed because they said it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do one or the other.
Yeah.
You don't tell us the autopilot's fixed and then you show us him, or you tell us the autopilot's fixed and then you have Alfred like this. You don't do both. I think
it just felt like it's labouring the point to me a little bit. It's like, we know he's alive. Like, you don't need you either, as you say, like you could do like the mechanic being like, and like kind of zoom in on like something that says autopilot with some funny stuff that's gone on with it, and then you show him, because that's the reveal at the end. That's the reveal at that point. But them saying the autopilot's fixed and it's just
and then telling us he's alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they announced Bruce is alive 3 times in a row, and it's unnecessary. This isn't fucking Return of the King. We don't need four endings in a row. Thank you very much, Christopher. Right, okay. I mean, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about here. Oh, no, there's one last thing, which is the best thing in this whole movie. It's the dumbest thing in this whole movie. The bit where the cops get out from underground, right? Batman's done his thing on the bridge. He's set his symbol on the bridge. Gotham has risen to the challenge, and they're ready to support the Batman. And you've got all the cops. They've come out from underground. They're malnourished. They need some sunlight, but they're all right. And then you've got all the criminals on the other end. Both groups of people are armed with guns, okay? Just bear that in mind for what's about to happen next. They have guns, things that like you shoot them. They fire long distances.
Yeah.
And then what happens is Matthew Modine blows a whistle and they all run at each other like it's the end of Return of the King. Like, not the bit that I've just talked about where like he essentially turns around and says, "For Frodo," and then they fucking run at each other with swords. What's going on in that scene? Like, why? No one fights like that. It doesn't make any sense.
They had, why? Just because it's a third big one, they had to have a big battle scene, like
a big battle. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
Film, yeah.
Like if they had like a separate, if like what they needed to do was have all the police say like it's damp down there and it's ruined our guns, and Batman's like, no problem, we'll go to the museum, and they go to the museum and they get a bunch of like swords and shit from the museum. Then do that. Have that as the battle scene, but like just to have them running at each other, literally firing pistols into the air as they run. It's like, what are you doing?
Like I watch TV, like I know what America's like. Any potential of harm at all, they're all there as if they're army men. Like, so they should have like AR-15s and stuff.
Oh, there'd be guns fucking everywhere.
Why on earth are they all running with a baton with a little sidearm on their hip? They should all have actual military style guns and literally like with full on military kit, because that's what American police are like.
Yeah.
What is this?
It is outrageous and the stupidest scene in the whole movie, but I love it. I couldn't stop laughing when I watched that scene because I'd forgotten about it.
You know what I would have loved? I would have loved some police in like riot gear in the charge, like because it's like, you know, they're meant to be stopping it.
Forming like a phalanx at the front, like the fucking dwarves in the Battle of the 5 armies.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, little shields up, like poking their batons through, like their spears. This movie is ridiculous. I think that is probably gonna see us through to the end of this. I can't see anything else. So, very quickly then, on second, or not second.
Oh, one more thing, Conrad. One more thing.
Go on. I'll let you get
Liam Neeson's appearance as Mufasa.
Oh yeah. We do get Mufasa Neeson popping up to taunt Batman in the in the pit. Liam Neeson got his paycheck. So did Cillian Murphy. Actually, we didn't mention him, but he got his paycheck as well. He paid a fair few Irish actors in this one, actually, didn't he? Aidan Gillen, Cillian Murphy, Liam Neeson. There's probably others.
Take the bank, boy. Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, exactly. Right, okay, ratings then. First time watching this in like 15 years. What are you rating it? How are you feeling about it?
I'm going to rate it we don't do half stars, so it'll be a 4.
Nope.
It's not as good as The Dark Knight.
4 bloody stars. Okay.
It is 4 stars. Come on. You're saying 3. It's not 3. It's
a 3. I think this is a 3-star movie. Like, I think this is worse than Batman Begins, and Batman Begins is a 4-star movie.
Yeah, but see that the problem with that, Conrad, is right that style of rating, saying that, you know, because it's worse than Batman Begins, it has to be 3-star. How on earth are you going to rate out of 5 stars the Fast and the Furious movies?
I'll just give them 1. Give them all 1 and be done with it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises can both be 4, and that's what I'm doing.
No, I refuse. I refuse to accept that. I'm gonna ride this flawed rating system all the way into the ground. But yes, that is gonna do it for us here, I think, on the Best Movie Podcast ever, which is going to lead us to answer one simple question, as we always do, and that is, Anthony, what's your favourite movie this week?
My favourite movie this week, it's been a while, but it's definitely We Bought a Zoo.
I said The Dark Knight again, because all this movie did was make me miss The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I was like, oh boy. Remember those days? The good old days of 2008 before Christopher Nolan fucked it all up? I say that. It's not an awful movie. It's just not one of his best either. But yes, that is going to do it for us here on the Best Movie Podcast ever. So thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. You can find links to their stuff down in the description below. And thank you to you for persevering and sticking with us. Sorry we've gone long, or if you've enjoyed it, you're welcome for us going long. Please consider subscribing if you're not already. We're the Best Movie Podcast ever on podcasting apps, and we are the Culture Cave on YouTube. Get involved in the comments. Let us know how much you hated The Dark Knight Rises, because let's be honest, no one likes this movie apart from Anthony.
You like it too.
I do like it. I'm playing the character. Better
character than Catwoman.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Not as good a character as Matthew Modine and his whistles, though. But we will see you same time, same place next week.